Every time lightning flashed, I saw him a little closer to the glass, but he never made a sound. I was house-sitting for my sister out in rural Pennsylvania. She and her husband had taken a 2-week trip to Italy, and their place was perfect. For someone like me, quiet, surrounded by woods, no neighbors for a quarter mile in any direction, a web designer's dream. It was early October, and a storm had rolled in late in the afternoon. The kind that builds slowly, dark skies stretching across the horizon, air thick and unmoving, the kind of pressure that settles behind your eyes. I didn't mind. I actually liked the noise. It made the silence feel less hollow. By the time it was fully dark, the rain was hammering the roof. The wind was knocking branches against the siding like restless fingers. Around 9 p.m., the power blinked once, then twice, and finally went out completely. Just like that, I was sitting in the dim quiet with nothing but the candlelight and the occasional flicker of lightning outside. Still, I wasn't panicked. I'd lit a few candles around the living room and boiled water on the gas stove for some tea. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket, listening to the rain and half reading something on my Kindle. The signal was weak, but enough to get by. Then there was a crack of thunder, so sharp it rattled the windows. My head jerked up, just instinct, startled. And that's when I saw him, a man, standing at the far edge of the lawn, perfectly still, no umbrella, no hood, just standing there, facing the house. For a second, I didn't move. My brain hadn't caught up yet. I waited for the next lightning flash, and when it came, he was gone. I got up and walked to the window, staring out into the wet blackness, telling myself it was a tree, or a mailbox, or my imagination. The mind plays tricks in storms. When you're alone and the power's out, I even laughed to myself, trying to shake the tension off. I went back to the couch, pulled the blanket tighter. Another flash. He was there again, closer this time, halfway across the lawn, same stance, arms at his sides, just watching. My stomach sank. I stood up fast, knocked over the tea on the coffee table, but I didn't care. I moved to the front door and locked it, checked the backslider, the side door, every window, locked, sealed. The rain made it hard to hear, but I strained anyway, for footsteps, knocking, anything, nothing. Just the wind and the occasional gust of rain slapping the side of the house. I went back to the living room window and waited. My heart was pounding, but I told myself it could still be in my head. Another flash, even closer. Now I could see the outline more clearly. He wasn't holding anything. He wasn't wearing anything distinct, just a dark shirt and jeans, soaked from head to toe. His face was angled slightly downward, as if he were staring just below the window, and he never moved. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone had no bars, not even a flicker of reception. My sister's Wi-Fi, of course, was dead with the power. I turned the phone off to save the last 4% of battery. I didn't know what good it would do, but it felt like control, and I was desperate to feel in control. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife, not a steak knife, but one of those long carving ones. My hand was shaking, but it felt better to hold something. I paced the house for a while. Every few minutes, lightning would flash, and every time he was closer, but he never knocked, never tried the handle, never made a sound. That's what made it worse. Eventually, I gave up watching the windows. My brain couldn't take any more flashes. I figured I'd wait for morning, or if things got worse, maybe make a run for the car and head to the gas station a few miles down the road. Around 1 a.m., I finally tried. I slipped on a jacket, grabbed my keys, and ran through the rain to the garage. It was freezing, my shoes soaked in seconds. I threw the garage door open manually and got into the driver's seat. Heart hammering, I turned the key. Nothing, not even a click. The battery was dead. I sat there, cold water running down my neck, and stared out into the yard from inside the garage. Another lightning flash. He was at the side of the house now, near the patio. Still no movement, just ... watching. I backed out of the car and slammed the garage door shut again. My breath came fast, ragged. The knife was still on the kitchen counter. I grabbed it, then ran to the laundry room, the only space in the house without windows. It smelled like detergent and faint mildew. I closed the door, sat on the floor, and just listened. Time passed in waves. 5 minutes, 10, an hour. I don't know. And then came the brightest lightning flash of the night. The whole house lit up for just a second, but it was enough to see his face pressed against the glass patio door, staring inside. His mouth wasn't open. His eyes weren't wide. He didn't bang on the glass. He just looked in, like he'd always been there. Like he knew I was watching him, too. The power came back a little after 3 a.m. I didn't leave the laundry room until after sunrise. When I finally opened the back door, the yard was soaked, mud everywhere, branches down. But I saw the prints, dozens of them, footprints all around the house, circling it. Some stopped outside the kitchen window, some at the front porch, some near the living room glass. But only one set went all the way around, the same set, heavy boots, deep in the mud, walking the entire perimeter, slowly, and never once trying to get in. When I returned to my room, the key they gave me didn't work, because someone else was already inside. It was a little after 11 p.m., and the rain hadn't let up for hours. I was driving back to my hometown for the holidays, and even though I only had about 90 minutes left on the road, my eyes were burning and the wipers couldn't keep up with the downpour. I figured I'd stop for the night and finish the drive in the morning. That's how I ended up pulling off at this tiny roadside motel, the kind tucked just behind a truck stop with a flickering neon sign and maybe 6 cars in the lot. Remember the name? It was something generic, like Red Pines or Sleepy Hollow. All I saw was a vacancy sign and a half-lit office, window glowing through the rain. The woman at the front desk didn't say much. She was older, gray hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a faded blue cardigan. She barely looked up as I came in, just slid the guest book toward me without a word. I signed in. She gave me room 27 and a brass key attached to one of those large plastic tags, deep green and cracked with age. No smile, no eye contact, just stares are around back. I should have taken that as a sign. My room was upstairs, at the far end. The hallway carpet was damp underfoot, soft and a little spongy. The walls had this weird yellow tint, and there was a constant low humming sound, like plumbing or faulty wiring. Everything smelled faintly of mildew and that artificial lemon cleaner they used to cover it up. Inside, the room was small but passable. Peeling wallpaper, a dusty lamp on the nightstand, and a bedspread with a dated floral pattern. I turned on the TV, more for background noise than anything, then took a quick shower, and settled into bed with a bag of trail mix and a crossword puzzle. That's when I noticed the guy in the room next to mine. At first, I thought it was just thin walls, but I could clearly hear him coughing wet, raspy coughs, like he was trying to clear something deep in his chest. It happened every few minutes, then nothing. I never heard him move around, just the coughs. At one point, I heard footsteps outside my door, light, unhurried. They stopped right in front. I froze, expecting a knock, but nothing came. I waited, maybe 30 seconds, then got up and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I told myself someone must have gotten turned around. It's a motel, people wander. Still, something about the silence afterward made my skin crawl. Later, around midnight, I decided to get a snack. The vending machines were back near the front desk, and I figured a quick walk in the open air might clear my head. When I passed the front office, the same woman was there, sitting in a different chair behind the desk. She looked up this time, gave me a slow blink, like she barely remembered seeing me an hour earlier. "You're in 109, right?" she asked, eyes narrowing. "No, 207, I said, confused. She stared at the screen in front of her, then at me. "No, I have you down for 109, I laughed awkwardly. "That's not right. I've already been in 207 all night. My stuff's in there." She didn't respond, just frowned and clicked around on the computer. Eventually, she pulled out another key, identical to the first, and said, "I'll walk you up." We walked in silence. The hallway smelled worse now, damp carpet mixed with something sharp, like mold, just beneath the surface. When we got to 207, I tried the key, still didn't work. The woman unlocked it with her copy and pushed the door open slowly. The room was dim. The bedside lamp was on, just barely. There was a man sitting on the edge of the bed. His back was to us, hunched forward slightly. His clothes were soaked, like he'd just stepped in from the rain, but there was no sound of water dripping, no movement, just that slow rise and fall of his shoulders as he breathed. "That's my bag," I said quietly, pointing to the duffel in the corner near the bathroom door. "The man didn't react, sir," the woman said, barely above a whisper. Still nothing. "He didn't turn around, didn't move, just sat there, as if we weren't even there." The clerk put a hand on my arm and gently pulled me back. "Sometimes the system mixes up names," she said softly. "It's rare, but it happens. Come on, back down the hall." She handed me a key to 109. I was too stunned to argue. My new room was smaller. The TV didn't work. One of the lamps was missing a bulb, but the door locked, and for the moment, that felt like enough. I didn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I heard it again, footsteps, soft, wet. They stopped outside my door. Then came a knock, 3 taps, deliberate, and then nothing. I sat on the bed, frozen, for what felt like an hour. I didn't go to the door. I didn't look through the peephole. I just waited. Eventually, the footsteps moved on, slow, like whoever it was had all the time in the world. When morning came, I packed fast and went straight to the front office. The woman was gone. A younger guy was working now, bored-looking, earbuds in. I asked about room 207. He checked the system. "That room wasn't rented out last night," he said without looking at me. "Was supposed to be under maintenance. Water damage." "What about my bag?" I asked. "What bag?" I walked with him back to 207. The door was already open, propped with a wedge. Inside, the room was empty. No lamp on, no man, no duffel bag. I checked 109 too, just to be sure. Nothing. The guy shrugged when I pressed him. "We don't have a record of you staying here," he said flatly. "Are you sure you checked in last night?" I showed him the key. He looked at it like he didn't recognize it. Then he tossed it in a drawer full of others just like it. I left without another word. I never got that bag back. Nothing valuable was in it, just clothes, my journal, some toiletries. But still, it was mine. I had been there, at least. I think I had. They told us not to go near the creek when it floods, because the voices don't belong to anything living. I never gave much thought to local legends. Every rural town has them. Stories passed down from people who've lived in the same house their entire lives. So, when my grandparents told me and my cousin Tyler not to go near the woods during the rain, we laughed it off. They made it sound like a bedtime warning. When the creek floods, the woods talk, and the voices you hear, they're not real, they just want you to follow. It had been raining for 3 straight days. Not heavy, just a cold, steady drizzle that made the whole countryside feel soggy and still. By the 3rd evening, we were restless. 2 17-year-olds stuck inside, no Wi-Fi, no signal, and only a shelf of ancient board games with half the pieces missing. That's when Tyler suggested we take a walk. We grabbed our boots and flashlights. I still remember the way the rain tapped against the porch roof as we stepped out. It wasn't cold, exactly, but the air had that heavy spring dampness that seeps into your sleeves and under your collar. The woods behind the house stretched for acres, mostly birch and pine, crisscrossed with deer trails, and, at the bottom of the slope, a shallow creek that usually trickled past without much noise. But now, with the rain, it had swelled and spilled into the forest, flooding everything ankle-deep. We weren't more than 10 minutes in before the air changed. It wasn't just the water or the fog that clung to the trees. It was something in the stillness, like the forest was holding its breath. At first, we joked about it, flashing our lights into the dark and making fun of the warnings. "Don't follow the voices," Tyler said in a mock horror voice. "They'll lead you right into the flood and drown you." But then we heard laughter, soft, feminine, just ahead of us. We both froze. Tyler swung his flashlight toward the sound, but the beam caught nothing but a curtain of rain and gray branches. "You hear that?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "Probably someone walking their dog or something in knee-deep water at night." We kept walking, not toward the sound, just deeper into the woods, as if pretending we hadn't heard it would make it less real. Then we heard my name, Ben. It wasn't loud, just a murmur, like someone calling from a distance. But it wasn't someone. It was my dad's voice. That exact tone he used when I was younger, calling me in for dinner, gentle but firm. The problem was, my dad had died 2 years earlier. I stopped cold. "Did you hear that?" Tyler turned to me slowly. "Yeah." We stood in silence, listening. The water rippled softly around our boots, frogs croaking somewhere deeper in the woods, and then again my name, but closer this time, and overlapping it other voices. Laughter, then whispering, then more names. Tyler's mine, my mom's voice, saying something too soft to understand. "Is there, like a speaker out here?" Tyler asked. "What? You know someone's screwing with us. Like hidden audio." I wanted to believe that. I really did. But the voices didn't come from one direction. They shifted. Left, right, behind, circling, always just outside the flashlight's reach. Then one came in crystal clear. "Benny, help me, please." It was my mom. The voice, the rhythm, everything about it was hers. Except for one thing. My mother died 6 years ago. I took a step forward, not thinking, just drawn. "Ben," Tyler said, grabbing my arm. "No, she's calling me." "No, she's not. That's not her. You know that." I don't know what came over me, but I kept trying to pull away. My boots squelched deeper into the water. It wasn't just ankle-high anymore. It was up to my calves. The ground had shifted, somehow gone soft and sucking. I felt resistance. When I tried to move, like something beneath the water wanted me to stay. "I think I see her," I whispered. Tyler shook his head. "You don't." I tried to step forward again, and this time I felt it. Hands, cold, beneath the water, grasping at my shins. Not strong, but anchoring. Tyler yanked hard, pulling me backward. I fell, crashing into the shallows, water soaking through my jacket and shirt. But it broke whatever trance I was in. We ran, splashing, stumbling, pushing through branches and undergrowth. I didn't care that I left the flashlight behind. I didn't care that I could still hear the voices, my mom calling me from behind, her words now pleading, repeating the same sentence. "Don't leave me out here." When we burst through the edge of the woods and onto the lawn, my grandparents were standing on the porch. They didn't ask questions, just handed us towels and ushered us inside. We sat by the fire in silence, shivering, watching steam rise from our soaked clothes. Eventually, my grandfather said, "That creek's not just water when it floods, it opens things." I didn't ask what he meant. I didn't want to know. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to convince myself it was just some weird forest acoustics. Maybe I'd fallen asleep for a second and dreamed it. But around 3:30 a.m., I heard it again. A soft knock on the window next to my bed, not loud, just casual, like a neighbor dropping by. I sat up slowly. The rain had stopped. The room was quiet. Another knock, then silence. I drew the curtain. My mother was standing outside. She wasn't wet. Her hair wasn't tangled or muddy. She looked just like she did in one of her old pictures. Clean, smiling, bright, dash-eyed. She didn't look scared. She didn't wave. Just stood there, smiling. I didn't open the window. I didn't move. Eventually, she turned and walked back into the woods. I haven't told anyone about that part. Tyler doesn't know. My grandparents never asked, but I've thought about it every single night since. Because I don't know if she was trying to lure me, or if she was trying to warn me.